podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Two-Footed Podcast here on EPL Index. Now, before we kick things off today, I just want to share something with everybody. This episode is brought to you by our partners at Sky Bet, and we've teamed up with Sky Bet because they truly understand what it means to be a fan. Sky Bet appreciates the length that people go through to support their team in all areas, whether you're a match-going fan or otherwise, and there's just no better fit for us right now than a partnership with the good folks at Sky Bet. So with that said, let's go. What's good, boys and girls? Two-Footed Podcast. Today is Tuesday. It is the 30th of April. We are about to enter May, and the pissings of rain have returned. But, you know, such is life here on a very wet country. I should have said a very wet island there, shouldn't I? Yeah, I probably should have. Anyway, as you would have heard before I began waffling, this podcast is brought to you today by our friends at Sky Bet. So we're going to dig into the lower leagues today, but we're going to start with the National League and work our way up, because there's still some stuff to happen in terms of final league position with the Championship, but National League, League 2 and League 1 are now set, and it's just about playoffs. So obviously, last weekend was the final weekend of National League action, and the playoffs kicked off on Wednesday of last week. The Altrincham Gateshead game on the Tuesday was cancelled because Gateshead didn't have the guarantee of a stadium for next year. But on the Wednesday, Solihull Moors 4, Halifax Town 2. And that put Solihull into the Saturday game against Barnet. So quite a quick turnaround. No need to worry, though. Solihull, who finished 5th in the division, went to Barnet, who finished 2nd in the division, and wiped the floor with them, beating them 4-0. In the other game, Altrincham had obviously gotten the free pass because of Gateshead being thrown out. They took on Bromley on Sunday, and Bromley came from behind to win 3-1 with 3 goals in 9 minutes there. So this Sunday, in a 3 p.m. kickoff at Wembley Stadium, Bromley versus Solihull Moors for a spot in the Football League. So that is exciting, and they will join, the winner of that will join Chesterfield in moving on up into League 2 then. And the final round of games took place at the weekend. Colchester 1, Crewe Alexandra 1, Swindon Town 3, Morecambe 3, MK Dons 4, Sutton United 4, Gillingham 2, Doncaster 2, Salford 2, Harrogate 2, Wrexham 2, Stockport 1, Bradford City 4, Newport 1, Crawley 2, Grimsby 0, Accrington Stanley 4, Tranmere 1, Barrow 1, Mansfield 1, Forest Green 1, Notts County 0, and AFC Wimbledon 5, Walsall 1. So, at the bottom, Forest Green are gone and Sutton United are gone. They will play in the National League next season. Colchester survive by 3 points as we work up. Grimsby in 21st, Salford in 20th. Not exactly the season I'd imagine Gary Neville and co. envisaged for their financially doped team. Swindon in 19th, Newport County in 18th. They ended the season in horrendous form. Accrington Stanley in 17th, Tranmere in 16th, Morecambe in 15th, a very respectable 14th for Notts County, promoted from the National League last season. Harrogate 13th, Gillingham in 12th, Walsall in 11th, AFC Wimbledon 10th, Bradford City 9th, and Barrow, who had been in the playoff picture for a good chunk of the season, ended in just terrible form and end up missing out by a point. In the playoffs, we get MK Dons, who finished 4th against Crawley Town, and Doncaster, who finished 5th against Crewe Alexandra in 6th. So, Monday the 6th at 3 p.m, Crawley versus MK Dons first leg. At 5:30, Crewe versus Doncaster first leg. The second legs will be played on the Thursday and Friday. MK Dons Crawley on the Thursday, Doncaster Crewe on the Friday. Both of them 8 p.m. kickoffs, and the playoff final is set for the 19th of May. Going up automatically, we have Mansfield Town, Wrexham, and Stockport. Into League One. Sky Bet League One, final games at the weekend. Stevenage 2, Cheltenham 1, Exeter 1, Oxford United 2, Barnsley 1, Northampton 1, Port Vale 0, Cambridge United 0, Reading 3, Blackpool 2, Derby County 2, Carlisle 0, Shrewsbury 1, Leyton Orient 3, Wigan Athletic 2, Bristol Rovers 0, Fleetwood Town 3, Burton Albion 0, Peterborough 3, Bolton 3, Lincoln 0, Portsmouth 2, and Wickham 1, Charlton Athletic 0. At the bottom, Carlisle gone, Port Vale gone, Fleetwood gone, and despite their big win, despite their big win on the final day where they beat Burton, Cheltenham, who had the opportunity to stay up because of what took place between Fleetwood and Burton, couldn't get the job done, lost at Stevenage. A win would have kept them up, but unfortunately they couldn't get the job done, and down they go. So Burton survive in 20th, Shrewsbury survive in 19th, Cambridge United in 18th, Reading in 17th, Charlton in 16th, Bristol Rovers 15th, Northampton 14th, Exeter 13th, Wigan Athletic in 12th. A good run at the end of the season to secure a top half finish, which doesn't seem like much, but I'd imagine when you've been through what they've been through in recent years, it feels quite good to have stability at the club. Leyton Orient 11th, another club that have been through the ringer a few times. Wickham in 10th, Stevenage in 9th, Blackpool in 8th, Lincoln City in 7th. Both of them miss out. Barnsley managed to cling on to a playoff spot, but they get jumped by Oxford. So Barnsley will take on Bolton, Oxford will take on Peterborough, Derby County and Portsmouth going up automatically. On Friday coming, Barnsley Bolton first leg 7:30 kickoff. On Saturday coming, Oxford Peterborough first leg 7:45 kickoff. On the following Tuesday, which is the 7th of May, we get the second leg, Bolton versus Barnsley. And on the 8th, then, it's Peterborough against Oxford. And both of those games are 8 p.m. kickoffs. The playoff final is the 18th of May. Now, into the Sky Bet Championship. QPR 4, Leeds United 0 on Friday night. Leeds basically blowing the opportunity at automatic promotion. Norwich City 2, Swansea 2, Bristol Rovers 2, Rotherham 0, Millwall 1, Plymouth Argyle 0, Cardiff City 1, Middlesbrough 4, big win for Borough. Huge win for Sheffield Wednesday. Sheffield Wednesday 3, West Brom 0. We'll get to the league table in a few minutes and you'll see why. Blackburn 0, Coventry City 0, Huddersfield 1, Birmingham 1. The worst possible result for both teams was a draw. Watford 1, Sunderland 0, Southampton 0, Stoke City 1. Southampton have just fallen apart. Hull 3, Ipswich 3, great game. Ipswich went 1 up, Hull equalised. Ipswich went 2-1 up, Hull equalised. Ipswich went 3-2 up, Hull equalised. Really, really fun game. Finally then, last night, Preston 0, Leicester City 3, 2 from Vardy and 1 from Casey McAteer to secure not only automatic promotion, but league champion as well. Leicester are back in the Premier League. This coming week, we have a game game today, Coventry versus Ipswich. That game is massive. If we look at the league table, Leicester are top, 97 points. Okay, they're up, they're champions. Leeds are second, 90 points from 45 games. Ipswich are third, 90 points from 44 games. If Ipswich get a point tonight, they will then go into the final day ahead of Leeds. Southampton are going to finish fourth on 84. Well, they've got 84 points. They've got 1 game left, obviously. Norwich currently fifth, looking safe in the playoffs. It would need a huge defeat for them and a big win for Hull to overturn them on goal difference. Norwich look safe in the playoffs. West Brom don't, though. They've lost 3 in a row. They got beaten heavily by a Sheffield Wednesday team that have been battling relegation all season. Their spot is very much up for grabs, and that could well be Hull who jumped them. They're only 2 points behind. West Brom do have the better goal difference, so a draw will be enough. But still, they've lost 3 in a row. They could easily lose this weekend. Everybody else is out of the mix then. It is only Hull that could potentially jump West Brom. Middlesbrough 8th, Coventry 9th, Preston 10th, Bristol 11th, Cardiff 12th, Swansea 13th, Watford 14th, Sunderland 15th, Millwall, the most informed team in the division with 4 successive wins, up to 16th, QPR 17th. They look like they were dead and buried early this season. The whole Michael Beale fiasco seems a long time ago, as it does, I think, for Sunderland. I'm not Michael Beale. It wasn't Michael Beale. It was, what's his name? What's the fella's name? Was that? Oh, that'll annoy me now. He was at Blackpool before that, wasn't he? And he was then Gerrard's assistant at Villa. Oh, Gareth Ainsworth started the season as manager. Oh, Neil Critchley was only there for a few months last season before getting sacked. And he's actually back at Blackpool, which I had completely missed. Gareth Ainsworth was there at the start of the season. But what a dreadful run at 10 years. Beale, dreadful. Critchley, worse. Ainsworth, meh. And then dreadful to start this year. But Cifuentes, the Spaniard that they have in now, he's done really well to turn it around. Like when they hired him, it was mocked. Like, who's this fella? He's worked where? He's worked in Sweden. He's worked in Denmark. He's worked in Norway for very, very low-level Spanish clubs. Nobody had heard him. He hadn't had much of a playing career. He's a young manager as well. And yet he's done really well to turn things around there and keep them up. Because they did look like they were in significant amounts of trouble. They were 22nd or 23rd every single week from the 30th of September until the 17th of February. But they've put together a good run since and been able to hold themselves out. And, you know, look, 17th is not going to get you any parades or anything. You're not making any DVDs or anything. But considering they looked hopeless. They really did look hopeless. It's a good outcome. Like, through the first 17 games of the season, they won 2, drew 4, and lost 11. lost 11. They've only lost 9 since. So that's a pretty good turnaround. Pretty good turnaround. Stoke City in 18th. Blackburn Rovers disappointing in 19th. Sheffield Wednesday now in 20th. 3 points clear of Birmingham. Now, Birmingham have a better goal difference. But Wednesday know a draw keeps them up. And that's massive for them. One more point and they're safe. And they had looked absolutely hopeless this season as well. They look like a team certain to go down. The great thing about this now is we will get Sheffield derbies next year, so I'm very excited for them. Like, they started the season with Cisco Moniz. You'll remember that last year they got promoted under Darren Moore. Darren Moore then left in the summer after falling out. They appointed Cisco. He lasted until the 4th of October. And then Danny Roll came in, the German, and he had no experience as a manager, but yet has done really, really well. He'd been a coach. He'd worked at Southampton, at Bayern, at Leipzig. He'd worked with the German national team, but he's a 34-year-old, 33-year-old at the time he was appointed. And he's done so well to keep them up. Like, you look back, they were in the bottom 3 from match week 2 after losing to Hull all the way up until match week 43. And now they're 1 point from safety. They took 6 points from the opening 17 games. And while they've lost quite a few games since, admittedly, 5, 6, 7, they've lost 10 games since their turnaround began with match week 18. They've just been really good of late. Like, they've won 4 in a row back at the end, late February or mid-February into early March. Then they lost 3 or 4, but they were playing top teams, Leeds, Ipswich, Borough. But then 3 wins and 2 draws in their last 5, including a win over a playoff team in West Brom, a draw with a playoff team in Norwich. And now they face Sunderland on the final day. And Sunderland have been on the beach for weeks. 5, 10, 13. Yeah, they lost 13 of their first 17. And 10 of the last 28. So you can see the turnaround there. Plymouth on 48 points. Now they're at risk. They're 1 point ahead of Birmingham, 3 points ahead of Huddersfield. Now, I think we can write Huddersfield off as being relegated because their goal difference is minus 27. The only team they could catch outside the relegation spots is Plymouth, whose is minus 12. So they would need to win 16-0. So not happening. Huddersfield are going to be playing in League One next year, which, given they were in the Premier League not that long ago, is very tough for them to take. Birmingham, though, Birmingham can get out of this mess. For Sheffield Wednesday to go down, they would need both Birmingham and Plymouth to win, and them to take no points from their final game. So Sheffield Wednesday should be okay, but you never know. Plymouth and Birmingham is what it really boils down to. So our final games of the season on Saturday. All of these are 12:30 kickoffs. Stoke against Bristol. It's a nothing game. Both teams are, safe, not getting playoffs. 11th, visiting 18th. So nothing to play for there. Swansea Millwall again is another nothing game. Yet that's 13th against 16th. Neither have anything to worry about. Neither anything to play for. Leicester Blackburn. Leicester are up. Blackburn are not getting relegated. That's an irrelevance. That's 1st versus 19th. Middlesbrough Watford, another nothing game. That is 8th versus 14th. Rotherham, Cardiff, another nothing game. Rotherham have been gone for a while. Cardiff are going to finish firmly in mid-table. That's 24th versus 12th. But these other games, and one other that won't matter is Coventry versus QPR. Regardless of the result tonight, Coventry are not getting in the playoffs. QPR are going to be fine. So that's fine. But these other games do matter. So Sunderland versus Sheffield Wednesday. A point is all Sheffield Wednesday need. They might not even need that point. Plymouth host Hull. A win for Hull could potentially see them jump into the playoff spots, but only if West Brom lose. West Brom play Preston. Birmingham need a win to potentially have a chance of staying up. They play Norwich at home. Norwich aren't great on the road, but Norwich will be wanting to get a win just to ensure that they end up in the 4-5 in the playoffs and not the 3-6. West Brom play Preston. West Brom, a draw is probably enough. A draw is enough. A draw will be enough to ensure they're in the playoffs, regardless of what Hull do. So that game matters. Leeds Southampton could be important depending on results elsewhere. Saints are going to finish fourth, but Leeds could still get second. Ipswich Huddersfield. Huddersfield are gone. Like, they're as good as gone. If Ipswich get a point tonight and win that game, they will go up automatically. And that'll be back-to-back promotions. League One to Premier League in back-to-back seasons. It's just absolutely phenomenal what Kieran McKenna has done there. And we did a little bit of nostalgia on Ipswich last year. But it's just important to highlight what they're doing at the moment, because I'm so impressed by this fella, Kieran McKenna. So take it back to the 2021 season. They finished 9th in League One. The year before, they'd finished 11th. The year before, they'd been in the Championship and been relegated. Okay, so they've gone down. They've had 2 nothing seasons. We go into the 21-22 season. Paul Cook is the manager. He gets sacked mid-season. I think he gets sacked in the December. Yeah, 4th of December. So they are 20 games in, and they are sitting in 11th in the table. 2 weeks later, Kieran McKenna arrives, and they end up finishing 11th, but they have quite a good run unbeaten, where they win 6 and draw 5 in an 11-game unbeaten stretch. They tail off a bit towards the end. They've gotten as high as 9th. They finished the season a little bit rough, but still, promising signs were there. Last year's his first full year there, and they finished 2nd. Automatic promotion behind Plymouth, ahead of Sheffield Wednesday, who'd come up in the playoffs. And Plymouth finished with 101 points. Pretty historical. But the thing to note here about Kieran McKenna's team, 46 games, 28 wins, 14 draws, only 4 defeats, and scored the most goals in the division. They also had, if I'm not mistaken, the best defensive record in the division last year. 35 goals conceded. Bolton was 36. Sheffield Wednesday was 37. Yeah, so the best goal difference and the best attack. And they were the hardest team to beat, losing only 4 games. They get promoted, they come up. Now, again, they come up with Plymouth and they come up with Sheffield Wednesday. So we look at Plymouth this season, very much at risk of going down. Sheffield Wednesday, at risk of going down, though less risk than Plymouth. Whereas Ipswich, They've just competed from the very start. So with a game left for everybody else, but 2 games left for them, automatic promotion is in their own hands. A draw and a win, preferably 2 wins, just to make certain, and they will be promoted. Once again, they've been the hardest team to beat in the division. 26 wins, 12 draws, only 6 defeats. Only 6 defeats in a championship season is very, very impressive. Leicester have lost 10 games this year. Now, Burnley only lost 3 last year, which was absolutely incredible. The year before, Fulham went up top, 10 defeats. Bournemouth went up second, 8 defeats. The year before that, Norwich lost 7, Watford lost 9, Brentford lost 7. The year before that, Leeds lost 9, West Brom lost 7. 18-19, Norwich only lost 6. Sheffield United lost 9. The year before that, Wolves, when they went up, a lot of people say that's the best championship team they've ever seen. They only lost 7 games. 16-17, Newcastle went up. It's mad to think that it's that recent since Toon were in championship. Toon and Brighton come up together. Toon lost 10, Brighton lost 9. 15-16, Burnley under Dyche only lost 5. Brighton that year only lost 5. That's the Gus Poyet year, isn't it? 14-15, Bournemouth promoted under Eddie Howe with 8 defeats. So, like, you're looking there, you've got 1, 2, 3, got 4 teams in the last 10 years that have lost 6 or fewer games in the championship until this Ipswich team. So that's really good company to be keeping. And making yourself that hard to beat gives you a really good leg up. They've scored 1 goal less than Leicester, but obviously have played a game less. So in all likelihood, could well finish this season with the most goals scored again. Now, they haven't been nearly as good defensively this year, but then the Championship, like the Premier League, has been very poor defensively this year. You've only got, I would say, 3 teams that can look at their defensive record this season and say, we're pretty proud of that. Leicester, 39 conceded. Leeds, 41 conceded. And I'd throw West Brom in there at 47 conceded, even though it's more than a goal a game. Everyone else is like 52 or worse. And like 52 is Sunderland in 15th, whose goal difference is 0. They played quite a defensive style for quite a while. But like this, Bristol, with 47 as well. Bristol City. It's a credit to them. But they lost 17 games, so you're not getting much praise. So 4 teams that I would say can look at it and say, I'm pretty proud of that. Just need to figure out, how to win more games in the case of West Brom and Bristol. But still, like, the least defeats in back-to-back seasons in the division, potentially the most goals in back-to-back seasons. That's really, really impressive. And I always look at how managers react to adversity. Like, does his team capitulate into multiple losses? Obviously, last season, only losing 4 games, they didn't have back-to-back losses. They did go at one point 4 games without a win. They also went 3 games without a win. And that's as bad as it ever got for them. They won 1 out of 8, which was a bad run. There were 6 draws in there. And then this season, obviously the 6 defeats thus far, but still no back-to-back defeats. Still no back-to-back defeats. They went 5 without a win. They're currently 4 without a win, but 3 draws. 4 draws in that 5 without a win. Again, they had a run where they had 1 win in 8, but again, it was a lot of draws. There was 6 draws in there. Sorry, it was 1 win and 9. 6 draws, and 2 defeats, but no back-to-back defeats. And let me just check from when he took over. 16th of December. No, Ipswich have never lost back-to-back games under Kieran McKenna. They'd done it twice earlier, that 21-22 season before he took over. He has lost 2 of 3, but never back-to-back in the league. In the league, it's important to point out. I think that's a really good sign. I think he is going to be a top-level manager. He's only 37. To achieve what he's already achieved there, 129 games, 73 wins, 36 draws, 20 defeats. That's all competitions, obviously, so it includes cups. And if we look at, and that's a 56.59 win rate. If we look at the cups, actually, who's been knocking them out of the different cup competitions? So the FA Cup, in 21-22, they actually got knocked out before he got there. They got knocked out in the second round by Barrow. And Newport had knocked him out in the League Cup again before he got there. So he didn't have any cup matches that year. In 22-23, in the FA Cup, they beat Bracknell Town, Buxton, Rotherham, and then took Burnley, who were a division above them, to a replay and lost 2-1. But a disappointing loss to Colchester, I would say, in the EFL Cup. This season, in the Cups, FA Cup, beat AFC Wimbledon, lost to Maidstone. That was very disappointing. They lost at home to non-league Maidstone in the FA Cup. In the League Cup this year, they knocked out Bristol Rovers. They beat Reading on penalties. They knocked out Premier League Wolves. And then they lost to Premier League Fulham. So I would say the Maidstone one is a bad result, but none of the rest of the cup exits under his watch, I would say, have been bad. The Colchester one. So yeah, two bad, but 2 decent ones. I mean, losing to a Burnley team that ran away with the championship while you were a League One team, and then losing to a solid mid-table Premier League team. Like, you look at the league defeats this year, Norwich, good team. That's a rivalry, obviously, at Derby. Losing away to Cardiff, not a terrible result. Cardiff are going to be a top half finish. Losing away to Preston, again, not a terrible result. Top half team. Ipswich playoff team. West Brom playoff team, and Leeds, probably a playoff team. They lost twice to Leeds, actually, this year. They lost twice to Leeds. So 4 of their defeats coming against playoff caliber teams, and the other 2 against top half teams. And we look at last season's defeats. Plymouth automatically promoted. Wycombe, Oxford, and Lincoln also beat them. So where did they finish? Wycombe finished 9th. Lincoln finished 11th. Both top half. Oxford finishing 19th is about the only bad league result they've had in 2 seasons. That's really, really impressive. I'm really hoping they can pull it off and get promoted. I'd worry about them if they went into the playoffs. I just think the playoffs is so unpredictable. But if they can get automatically promoted and come into the Premier League, I'm really excited to see what he does and how he does. Plays a 4-2-3-1. It's very fluid. Ball moves quickly. They're very creative. He does immense work with very little in terms of financial backing. I mean, Kiefer Moore is his number 9. He's, as we've seen on a number of occasions, a pretty average player, but at that level, quite good. He's gotten 6 goals out of him since he first came in. Nathan Broadhead has done very well this season with 13 goals. Connor Chaplin with 13 as well. He had a good season last year as well. He got 26 goals in the league last year. George Hurst has gotten them 7. So goals are fairly spread out. You've got Amari Hutchinson, who's in on loan from Chelsea. He's got 10. I think is he ex-Arsenal? Yeah. He was Chelsea Academy, Charlton Academy, Arsenal Academy, then Chelsea nicked him, and he's been on loan at Ipswich. And I wouldn't be surprised if Ipswich keep hold of him for next year. He's had a very good year as well with 10 goals. Jeremy Sarmiento, who had a failed loan at West Brom, went there and he's been much, much better. Wes Burns has knocked in 5 from midfield. Marcus Harness has knocked in 4 despite largely a squad role. Like, he gets goals from his wide areas. Ali Alhamidi, he's got 4 as well. Caden Jackson has kicked in 3. Just goals spread out. Nobody with more than 13, and yet still potentially the highest scorers in the division. Very, very impressive. Very, very impressive. We'll certainly need backing if they come up. Like, much of this is a League One squad. Couple of notable names there. Axel Tuanzebe, formerly Manchester United. He followed McKenna there. Brandon Williams, currently Manchester United. He's there on loan. Wouldn't be surprised if they came up, if they kept hold of him. Leif Davis is a player worth keeping an eye on. Very talented player, 24 years of age now, formerly of Leeds. Was at Bournemouth for a time. But yeah, that's a good, solid squad that he has absolutely gotten way more than anybody else would have out of. And if they come up, he's going to need backing. But he is set for the top, in my opinion. I think he is going to be a top manager. Even look at the transfers in the summer. Like, Tuanzebe, free agent. Ali Alhamidi, brought in from AFC Wimbledon, League 2 team. George Hurst hadn't made the grade at Leicester. Kieran Slicker, young goalkeeper, brought in from Man City. Henry Gray, never heard of him. I think he's a New Zealander. Yeah, New Zealand young goalkeeper, I think, brought in from some club called Waterside. Jack Taylor, brought in from Peterborough for a pretty small fee. Charlie Binns signed as a free agent, another goalkeeper that I genuinely have never heard of. But all of these lads have come along and all of them have contributed in one way or another, but they've done that without spending any real money. No real money put into the squad after promotion. Now, they got lucky with loans, it must be said. Amari Hutchinson, Brandon Williams, Dane Scarlett was there for the first half of the season. He was called back to Spurs. Sarmiento, Lewis Travis, and Kiefer Moore all in on loan. But still, no real money spent, and he's going to get them back-to-back promotions, all going well. Tremendous stuff. Everybody should be rooting for Ipswich tonight, and we will leave it there. We'll be back after this break. Right, welcome back. So we're going to stick with our friends at Sky Bet, and today we're going to explore the latest findings from their FanView survey, which offers some unique insights into the game we love. So let's get the ball rolling and delve into what makes football the beautiful game together with Sky Bet. So, I always find some of these to be quite funny, and one of these is quite funny to me. But first question, who will win the Premier League Golden Boot this season? So, your 3 contenders are Erling Haaland, Cole Palmer, and Ollie Watkins. Now, Haaland obviously is the favourite for the award, having won it last year and basically being a cyborg, and he has received 54% of the vote. Cole Palmer has gotten 29%, and Ollie Watkins on 17%. A little bit surprised that Isak wasn't included, but maybe this was done before the weekend when he bagged obviously 2 goals. But he still, I think, deserves some consideration here. Palmer is in the running because of penalties. Let's not be honest. He's having a tremendous season, but Cole Palmer is only getting to that level of goals because of penalties. His open play contribution has not been anywhere close to what Haaland and Watkins and Isak and Solanke and Salah have done in terms of goals. Interesting to see Bukayo Saka actually get his 15th goal of the season. Becomes the first English player to score 15 for Arsenal in a Premier League season. I think since Ian Wright in 96, 97 or something like that. Let's see. Now that would have obviously been a down season for Ian Wright, but then he was an out-and-out striker, whereas Saka is not. Ian Wright's 15, 96, 97. Ian Wright actually got 23 that year. The year before he got 15, the year before he got 18, 23, 15 and 24. In his final season, he got 10, but he was out of the team quite a bit because Anelka had landed. Who would you rather build your club around, Cole Palmer or Bukayo Saka? So this is interesting. So I did a poll recently asking who people would prefer, Phil Foden, Cole Palmer or Saka. And I expected Foden to win it, and he did. But I thought Saka would be second for most people, but Phil Foden was second for most people. Now, Saka is September 2001. Palmer is May 2002. So what's that? 9 months between them, basically? That Saka is older. This is the first season we're seeing Cole Palmer do anything, really. And it is a spectacular season, without question. 23 goals for Chelsea, giving him 25 for the campaign, including the 2 he got for City, although we're not going to count one of them because it was in the Community Shield. So 24 real goals this season. And obviously he's done well in terms of his creative numbers as well. But I mean, Bukayo Saka has 19 goals this season and good creative numbers. Last year, he got 15 in all competitions. The year before, he got 12 in all competitions. This is the 5th season we're seeing Bukayo Saka perform at a high level. It's the first for Cole Palmer. Like, Bukayo Saka has played 224 senior games for Arsenal. Cole Palmer has played 81 senior games in his career for City and Chelsea. He's got 40 for Chelsea since joining, 40 games. He had 41 for City. So assuming he plays every game at the end of the season, he'll actually play more games this season than he had in the entirety of his career to date. So I just don't know how 60% could say Cole Palmer and only 40% could say Saka. Perhaps people are looking at it with a long-term view and thinking, well, Saka has played, well, definitely too much football to this point, and maybe this will be a Dele Alli, Marcus Rashford type of thing, where when he hits 26, he burns out. But I'm not sure people put that much thought into it. I just can't get on board with the idea that Cole Palmer is a better footballer than Bukayo Saka at this point. I think he's a ridiculously talented footballer, but not better than Bukayo Saka at this point. I would rather build around Bukayo Saka. Also, Bukayo Saka can play pretty much everywhere. Left wing, right wing, as an 8, as a left back, as a left wing back. Give me that type of versatility. I'll take Saka. Has VAR had a positive impact on football? 77% said no. I would like to see a follow-up question. Is VAR properly implemented? Because the answer to that is also no. If VAR was implemented properly and the VARs were not referees, if there were people specifically hired to trained for the VAR role and had no relationship at all with referees, the system would be much better. But referees in the Premier League are incompetent. So why do we think they're going to be any more competent as VAR? They're not. They're going to be equally incompetent. And most of them are not going to want to correct their friends. And also we've heard of multiple referees warning young players, other officials, if you're on VAR for my game, don't overrule me. I'm not going to the monitor. People like Michael Oliver have taken that approach. So I would say I would agree with the positive impact being a no, but I think that's more down to the execution than the functionality of the role. If Eric Ten Hag leaves Manchester United, who should replace him? 35% said Zinedine Zidane. United is not the club for Zidane to walk into. The place is a dumpster fire. So take him out. 19% said Gareth Southgate. 19%. Now, maybe this is fans of other clubs saying it as a joke, but Gareth Southgate is awful. 17% said Graham Potter. That could make sense. Ineos have liked him for years. He has an existing relationship with Dan Ashworth. But he crumbled under the pressure of Chelsea. The pressure at Chelsea is a fraction of the pressure at Manchester United. 16% said Thomas Tuchel. Thomas Tuchel is a really good manager. He's a better manager than Southgate and Graham Potter. But he falls out with everybody. So he's not going to be a long-term fixture. But I would still say him. Of who's here, him. He's the one that can make the most of a bad situation. And then 13% said De Zerbi. That team is not in any way set up to play De Zerbi style of football. Who is the best striker in Premier League history? Now, striker is the key word here. 34% said Alan Shearer. 24% said Henry. Henry is obviously a better forward and a better player than Shearer. But striker, I would say fair enough, Alan Shearer. Harry Kane, 11%. Then it gets funny. Wayne Rooney, 9%. Sergio Aguero, 6%. Didier Drogba, 5%. Luis Suarez, 4%. Luis Suarez, far better player than Didier Drogba. Better player than Rooney. Better player than Aguero. Better player than Harry Kane. The only better player you could argue on this list is Henry. And even that, I'm not sure I'd agree. In the Premier League, yeah, overall, no, but it's the best striker. It's not the greatest. It doesn't factor longevity or anything else. Robin van Persie, 2%. Michael Owen, 2%. That's huge disrespect to Michael Owen. Erling Haaland, 2%. And 1% somehow came up with Andy Cole. Incredible. Shearer as the best striker, fine. But then it goes Henry or Suarez. And Suarez as a striker, as a 9, better than Henry. But you give Shearer the nod because of the goal tally. But Suarez being that low is ridiculous. Kane only getting 11% surprised me a little bit. But then he didn't win. And I think that is something people hold against him. Even though it's not all his fault. In fact, most of it is not his fault. I mean, Van Persie, he had 3 great seasons, really. Let's have a look. He had a lot of injuries when he was at Arsenal. He really had his peak very late. I mean, if you're being really honest about Robin van Persie, he scored 18 and 25 in 10-11, which is really good. 30 and 38, really good. And 26 in 38. That's it. Before those seasons, 5 and 26, 5 and 24, 11 and 22 is respectable. But then an injury-plagued 7 and 15. Return is good, but you're not playing enough games. 11 and 28, 9 in 16, but again, injury-plagued. Then he had 3 really good years. And then he was injured again, 12 and 21, 10 and 27. Robin van Persie had 3 really good years. That's it. He was in England for 11 years. Andy Cole, what did he have? He had one incredible season. But outside of that, some very good years, obviously. But one incredible season with Newcastle. Then he scored 21 and 36 the next year. He moved halfway through the season. Then he had 2 poor years, 11 and 34, 6 and 20, 15 and 33. It's not great, not bad, but not great. Then the treble winning year, he gets 17 and 32, but 24 in all competitions. Then 19 and 28 the next year. And then that was kind of it for him. Injuries really took their toll. He had 2 injury plagued seasons. And then he just wasn't the same player afterwards. He still knocked around for a long time, to his credit. And he had, that decent season at Fulham. Whereas I look at Michael Owen, like 97, 98, 18 in 36. At that point, that was a great return. 18 and 30 the next year, 11 and 27, 16 and 28, 19 and 29, 19 and 35, 16 and 29. Like, for that era of the Premier League, those are really impressive tallies. Michael Owen won the Premier League Golden Boot twice. If it hadn't been for injuries, he would have been so special. So special. An absolutely incredible footballer who had one horrible injury that completely altered his career. We'll go to break. We'll be back with the news and the gossip, including some bad news for Everton. Right, welcome back. So, Everton are calling in a leading firm of restructuring and insolvency advisors, The Guardian has learned, raising further questions about the proposed takeover of the Premier League club by 777 partners. The move comes as the club are believed to be waiting for a further £15 million of loans that 777 had pledged to provide Everton with during April. The latest loan would have taken the amount the club had borrowed from the American firm to more than $200 million during the 7 months since it announced it would acquire Everton. However, 777 appears to be experiencing further financial difficulties, with its low-cost airline, Bonza, entering voluntary administration in Australia on Tuesday. Meanwhile, they are also understood to have parted ways with its UK PR firm after falling behind on paying its fees. This does not sound good for Everton Football Club at all. The development raises further questions about whether the takeover will be able to be completed and how the club will be funded until the end of the season. When companies fall into financial difficulties, directors are required to take professional advice and closely monitor a business's finances to ensure that they are not trading while insolvent. The Guardian understands that Teneo, a global financial advisory firm with a large insolvency division, has been approached to advise Everton and its directors. When asked on Monday about the firm advising Everton, Daniel Butters, the chief executive of financial advisory, said, "We can't comment on any client situations," and then hung up the phone. Everton have declined to comment. The development raises questions about how long Farhad Moshiri can retain control of the club only a month after assuring fans that the takeover was entering the home straight, which obviously clearly was just nonsense. Another set of Everton creditors, MSP and its partners, the Evertonian businessmen Andy Bell and George Downing, has loaned the club about 160 million. That's 360 million of loans, which is secured over the new stadium development at Bramley-Moore Dock, as well as a charge over more than half of Moshiri's 94% stake in the club. This is brutal. 777 did not respond when efforts were made to contact the company. It does not look good for Everton Football Club right now. There's a piece here on the BBC website written by Andy West about Lucas Vazquez and Nacho, two absolute legends at Real Madrid, not necessarily star players at any point in their careers, but guys that have been there and put in all of the hard work over many years. Lucas Vazquez came through their academy, joined the club in 2007 as a 16-year-old, was a long time waiting for an opportunity. Spent 4 years in the B team, went to Espanyol on loan, came back. Zidane saw something he liked in him, and he played everywhere. For a guy that was an attack-minded winger as a kid, he played fullback, he played in midfield, he did whatever Zidane asked him to do. And you look every year, 33, 50, 53, 58, 23 injuries, 34, 41, 30, and 33. Played consistently, not a regular starter, but a regular player that Zidane and Carlo Ancelotti trusted to bring off the bench when they were needed. 344 senior games for Real Madrid, 35 goals, also won himself 9 caps, 3 La Liga titles, a Copa del Rey, 4 Champions Leagues, 3 UEFA Super Cups, 3 Football World Club Cups, and 2 Spanish Super Cups. Like, that is an amazing haul for anybody. And then we have Nacho, who's Real Madrid's captain this year, following a lot of departures. Another one that just lives and breathes the club. Joined them as an 11-year-old, came through the academy, also had to wait a long time for his opportunity. But, you know, you look over the last 10, 11 years, 13, 19, 22, 22, 39, 42, 30, 10 injuries, 33, 42, 44, 37. Like, again, another one that just racked up a lot of appearances, can play all across the back line, never has grumbled or griped about not being selected as often as he could have been. He could have gone somewhere else and played 50 times a season easily. 356 senior appearances, 16 goals. He's won 24 caps for Spain, 3 La Liga titles, 2 Copa del Reys, 5 Spanish Super Cups, 5 Champions Leagues, 3 UEFA Super Cups, and 5 World Club Cups. Do you know? What a career. What an amazing career. Absolutely tremendous. They're the type of guys that have been vital to Real Madrid. Fulham have been fined £75,000 and given a suspended 6-month ban from registering any academy players currently or previously registered with any other club. The punishment relates to a payment made by Fulham to Balham Blazers FC following Fabio Carvalho's move to Liverpool. Carvalho joined Fulham from Balham in December 2014, and the Premier League have said that Fulham accepted breaches of the Premier League rules in relation to player registration. Not fully sure what the issue is, but there we go. Really good story on the BBC website, written by Harry de Cosmo, who was on this podcast with me. He's a guy's mate and really good guy, had written a really good book. He has written an absolutely belting article here about Schalke and what's going on there. Now, it's a long read, but I do highly recommend you take the time and read this piece. It is... Schalke they might even be worse off than Everton. So do give this a read when you get a chance. It's really, really good. Vicente Del Bosque has been hired to supervise Spain's Football Federation. I think that's a really good move. USA and Mexico have withdrawn their bid to host the 2027 Women's World Cup and will instead focus on hosting the tournament in 2031. So as things stand, there is a bid from Brazil to host said World Cup and a joint one from Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands. The decision will be made in 3 weeks' time at the FIFA Congress in Bangkok. I would have thought the USA and Mexico would have been firm favourites to get that. Let's have a quick gander here for a second and see if we can guess where the next one might be. I'm going to guess it's in Brazil. Never been held in South America. It was in North America in 2015. It's been in Europe in 2011 and 2019. It was in, obviously, Australia, New Zealand earlier last year. Last year. Doesn't feel like that long ago. I'm going to guess that it ends up in Brazil, just because it's never been in South America before and they'd like to make a big deal of that. And rightly so, it should be a big deal. China hosted the first one in 91, then Sweden in 95. USA got back-to-back World Cups in 99 and 03. Very clear that interest dipped massively from the first to the second. Then China in 07, Germany in 2011, Canada 15, France 19, and Australia, New Zealand. I'm going to guess Brazil. That just leaves us with the gossip then. Liverpool fully expect Mohamed Salah to stay this summer and are planning on the basis of him being part of the squad next season. I don't believe that. Incoming sporting director Richard Hughes will lead talks over a new contract with Salah. His current deal runs out in 2025. Marcus Rashford might find his options limited if he chooses to leave Manchester United, with PSG cooling their interest in the 26-year-old. Fulham's Mark Guehi is of interest to Liverpool as they seek a replacement for Joel Matip. I don't think Liverpool are going to pay 55 million for Mark Guehi, though. As good and all as he is, I just don't see that. But he's definitely... There's a higher possibility, and it is only a slight possibility, but a higher possibility of Liverpool signing him now than there was if Klopp was staying. There was no chance if Klopp was staying, because Klopp centre-backs have to be 6'3" and above, and he's 6 foot flat. Ajax are keen to reappoint Erik ten Hag if he is sacked by Manchester United. West Ham's interest in Julian Lopetegui has been reignited after they learned that AC Milan are wavering over whether to appoint him as a replacement for Stefano Pioli. He's not a Milan manager, in my opinion. West Ham are keen to sign Callum O'Hare and Jacob Greaves this summer. They both make sense, to be fair. Championship title winners Leicester will be able to sign players during the summer transfer window, despite being put under an embargo by the English Football League. I wouldn't speak too quickly on that, because the Premier League definitely have a pound of flesh that they're coming from. However, the Foxes will have to sell players before the 30th of June to avoid profit sustainability rule breaches next season, with Kieran Dewsbury Hall attracting a lot of interest. They're going to get a P&S breach for this year. They're probably starting next season with a points deduction. If they get hit again, it could end up being very, very messy. Jermaine Defoe might be set to land his first managerial role after holding talks with Sunderland. Interesting. He's currently the under-18s coach at Spurs. Seems very, very quick. Seems very, very quick. Bayern Munich have taken the first step towards extending Leroy Sané's contract. 28-year-old is open to staying with the Bundesliga club beyond the end of his current deal, which ends next summer. Manchester United are still planning to appoint Dan Ashford as sporting director this summer, with the expectation the deal over compensation with Newcastle will be agreed soon. They're miles apart, according to the various reports. Bayern Munich plan to give Ralf Rangnick a contract until 2027. It's just a horrible appointment. Absolutely horrible. Robert Lewandowski plans to stay at Barcelona and is not considering a move to Saudi Arabia or the United States. That is bad news for Barcelona, who could desperately do it getting rid of him and ridding themselves of his salary. That'll do, folks. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.